If more of you supported the show, I'd be less sick of podcasts.
The blah blah blah.
Sending out good vibes.
The blah blah blah.
Good vibes. Good vibes.
The blah blah blah.
Good vibes. Good vibes.
108 breaths of deep gratitude and prayers for guidance and protection. And put on a didgeridoo and shamanic drumming track. Shivers or vibrations and stuff like that.
America.
Okay, guys, welcome to the Grind America Show. Coming back on a Monday, back on schedule, at least for now, with Vish Chatterji. Great chat, Astrology Decoded. What a great chat. I mean, this was a great guy. Of course, we got everybody's favorite podcaster, Graham fucking the dude Dunlop.
Yeah, this was an awesome. Vish is one of my favorites. I really resonate with this guy. I don't know, because he's been through, the corporate thing. He's been doing sort of corporate coaching, and then he gets into astrology, and he's an engineer too. So he's it's just, I don't know. I just really liked his demeanor. I just really resonated with us. He went through our charts a bit from the Vedic perspective. It was pretty cool.
Yeah, it was fun. I forget the chart already.
Yeah.
Miss anything good?
Well, you know what? I looked through the notes. I didn't really have a lot of our just something about Saturn and me that. But you know what? Oh, you know what he did say, that you were going to be making a living with your ears and me with my mouth. So that's interesting. Like, it really matched up with sort of like the audiobook portion of our business and stuff, which is interesting.
Maybe that's what he meant. Maybe he was hitting on you. Anyway, am I making a living with my ears now by listening to you?
Well, yeah, I guess. Yeah. You're doing the editing. You're the editor, right? I mean, or he could have just set that up for us. He knows.
He could have totally set it up.
Yeah.
We got long con.
Yeah, we got into the Astrology Decoded book, the secret science of India's sages. And, we just got, no, but I like it. I want the book because I think that would be a good book to just reference, to go through. Check out his website too, because he's got he's got a sort of a how-to guide with videos and stuff on there. It's really good.
What's the website?
It is vishchatterji.com.
How do you spell Chatterji? Chatterji?
Yep.
Nailed it. I could be a real whiz in a spelling bee or something,
Yeah.
So how's it going over there? Of course, you can skip our lazy ramblings. There's a timestamp in the show notes. Take you right to the interview with Vish. We're going to do some stuff, talk about some support. We actually have some supporters to mention this week. So some people have heeded the call of our vow of poverty, which wasn't supposed to be a vow of poverty. It was just supposed to be, the way we monetize the show. So,
well, I was thinking about back to 2017, because I was thinking of a podcast. I was going, wow, that's way back to March 2017. We're going to be talking about the show tomorrow night on another show. And I was thinking, man, that was a really good year. Like, we really were hitting our stride in 2017. We were growing. I remember you and I going over the numbers, and we're growing like 15%, 20% per month. And then boom, censorship and shadow banning and the PayPal apocalypse. I like that. Depocalypse.
Depocalypse
is the new word. And then it just slowed down, and it was we're not complaining. It's just that we did a couple of shows on hot topics back in 2017. And then it got, of course, harder even during COVID. And then we had to figure out how are we going to handle this situation in Grind America. Anyways, that was going through my mind just while I was doing the show notes tonight, preparing for tomorrow's show.
Yeah, it's like, hello, is anybody listening to the show anymore? Hello. Does anybody listen to the show anymore? Hello? Whoa. That's a weird one. It's like me, but I'm in a hallway. What's it called?
But you're in a weird mood.
Oh, that's a megaphone. That's a megaphone.
Oh, I couldn't really hear it. I don't know. I don't think your
Hello?
thing's working.
Hello?
No, it's not working.
Hello? Hello? It's not working?
No.
My voice thing's not working? Hello? Hello?
No.
Hello?
No.
Huh. It's working
what?
for me.
You know what's weird is I was going to ask you when we started recording, is your mic working? You might be coming through your camera. I'm going to check your StreamYard
Hello?
quickly and see.
Audio. It says I'm going through the mic. Looks like I'm going through the mic. So the voice synthesizer didn't work?
No, it didn't work. No. I was wondering why you were singing hello, like you're just acting really weird.
So I was high or something.
Yeah.
Are you okay, buddy? Well, I was doing all the different voices.
I know, but it wasn't. That's why it was really weird, because it wasn't really working at all.
It was working for me, so maybe it'll come out.
I'll show you how it's done.
Yeah, show me how it's done. Well, ask for some money while you're showing how it's done, because why it's not working? I think it's working. Why'd you have to put your glasses on?
Because, well, I have to see. I can't see without the glasses. See, this is it. Hello. Is that working now?
That's working, yeah.
And how about this one? The monster.
Why do you say it all aggressive like that?
Because it's just the way you talk, like a monster.
Why are you puffing your chest out like that? What kind of monster you think about? You got your bathrobe on. So, bath life. Are you putting a nice big bath down in the new basement?
I am going to do that. Yeah,
Okay.
I'm doing some renos, like really just cheap renos. I mean, I'm doing everything myself that I can do. Get some plumbing help and some electrician help, but it's going good. Yeah, demoed the whole basement and putting a new office down there. So,
are you gonna put like a claw bathtub or one of those like standalone ones?
Yeah, probably. Yeah,
that would be pretty cool.
Yeah, just depth. I can't fit in the bathtub right now, right? So I need a deep bathtub, because I like having baths in the winter and relaxing in the bathtub.
Yeah, I have a little bathtub too. I was thinking about getting one of them, those shitty hot tubs.
Yeah, I was thinking about that too.
Soft tub or whatever.
Yeah.
It's like a slow mini kids pool, but it's heated.
Yeah.
It's got some jets, I think, that go in there.
Yeah.
Just throw it out on the deck,
Yeah, there's still a few $1,000, I think, for those things.
Well, there's some that are a few hundred, but then you got to wonder if it's just a total piece of shit. So, which is the fear that whichever one you buy is going to be garbage.
Yeah. But they do have new technologies coming out, and then people are always wanting cheaper hot tubs. So I bet you there's one that's fairly cheap that's still really good quality. It's just using new technology or something, because there's still the original hot tubs, like the main ones that you get 4 or 6 people in. Those are like $7,000-$8,000. I think they're quite expensive.
Yeah, plus I'm sure they're not cheap to run.
Yeah.
I'm sure they're not cheap to run, especially in the era of carbon tax.
But it would be good to go out in -20, -30 in the winter and be able to jump in the hot tub.
Yeah, but a bathtub would be pretty cool too. I'd like to have a bigger bathtub.
Yeah,
that would solve all the problem. I did put a new kitchen sink in yesterday.
Wow, that's a bit of a pain, eh? How did that go?
It was more of a pain than I hoped.
Yeah,
that's for sure. I mean, I was prepared to have to redo the drain for sure. That's a given. And disconnect everything, but then the hole was bigger, so the old sink had rounded corners and this one had square corners.
Oh,
so I had to recut all those fucking corners again, and then the back was like an inch and a half bigger on the back, so I had to take the whole strip off the back, which is just a pain because there's not enough room to get anything power in there. So I used a handsaw. I had to use a fucking handsaw to saw that out.
Yeah.
But it's in now. So it's big, like one of the big basin sinks, just like without the divider in the middle.
Yeah.
Shauna's been bugging me for a while for one, so
Yeah, that's funny. That's what Maria wants too. She wants to like
I don't get it.
they call it a farmer sink or something. But
I don't get it. I'm a two-sider.
yeah.
It's
Yeah, me
very
too. The way I wash
versatile,
dishes, I use two sides, one to rinse and one to
just for all sorts of stuff, you know? I was raised on a two-sided sink. I'm looking at this one-sided contraption. I mean, it's pretty. It's nice. I don't know that it's as useful as a two-sided sink, but I don't use the sink. So if she wants a one-sided sink, I'll get her a one-sided sink. I mean, you can get a lot of water in there. Maybe you can give baby a bath, a little baby bath in the
Is
sink,
that
or
a hint?
like,
Is that a hint that
no, it's not a hint. Or maybe I mean, she said for washing big dishes once in a while, but I'd rather just make do and still have the two-sided sink. I mean, this is crazy.
Yeah.
Now it's just all is it. Even the kids are like, "What's the dirty side?" That's like Paul committed. It is a nice sink though. So yeah, yesterday was a busy day. I put a winch on the new quad. Not new quad, but new to me. It's a 1994.
94? Nice.
94 Kawasaki. Yeah, man. I think like it
That
doesn't
look-
have
I
what?
think it looked newer than that from the pictures, it seems.
Dude, the thing is like fucking brand new. It's like one of them barn finds. So
Wow.
I bought it from the guy who's like the second owner. And he's like, the guy I bought it from said it's been, stored inside of his barn the whole time, or his farm. And like it's fucking 30 years old. The seat doesn't have a crack in it. Not one crack in the seat. And all the
So you're-
cowling's in perfect shape. It's still a super hard pull.
And you're using that for your driveway and stuff to
Yeah, the starter doesn't work though. So you gotta pull
Oh.
start it, which is fine until it's cold, and then you gotta pull start it like 20 times, because it's like so tight in there to get it all moving around.
Right.
Maybe not 20, but enough that it's annoying.
Yeah. Wow. Okay.
So I ordered a starter for it, but if that's all I got to put into it as a starter, I'll be pretty happy because it wasn't bad. It runs great, and it's like the old a clutchless shift, so I can just put it in second gear for the kids to boot around in, and they can only go so fast, and it won't stall if they can stop and go without it stalling, and it'll only go so fast, And then if I put it in third gear, it'll go a little faster, but it's got a lot less pop. So it's like a slower start. So they get the hang of it.
Huh.
Because it snowed here like 2 feet. So my driveway's 300 fucking feet long.
Oh yeah, no, it snowed here too, big time. It's tough. Yeah.
So I had
we got the same storm. Yeah.
I need a plow situation here because the guy in town wants $200 a shot.
Yeah, that's
It's like that'd be $600 already. So I buy the quad for $1,400.
that's a pretty good deal. I was gonna ask you how much, yeah.
Yeah, and I've already plowed the driveway several times with it, like 3 times already.
Yeah.
But we got dumped, dude. When I went down, they hadn't plowed the road yet. When I went to town the other day, and I was like, fucking, you don't know where the road is anymore. But there's you can still see the fence line on either side. So you just say perfectly centered in the fence line, and you're on the road. The road's, almost 20 feet wide, so you got plenty of room. But we were plowing through fucking drifts, me and Cassandra, that where the snow comes over the hood, the drift is so deep. It's like woof, and then you can't see for a second, and then the wipers clear it off, and then you're just it's fun, really, because you're only doing 40 or 50 kilometers an hour. You're not really going that fast. You can't. You could definitely end up stuck in the ditch, but you're not going to get hurt. So the problem is it all goes underneath my fucking truck on those stupid airbags, and then it gets jammed up in there, all the snow, and half melted when it hits it because that stuff's warm, and then it just keeps piling up, and then fucking freezes into blocks of ice. So on my ride in this morning, the fucking truck's air, no suspension, almost like having no suspension.
You think they have figured that out by now?
You would fucking think they'd have figured that out.
That's Dodge too, right? Isn't it? Dodge.
Yeah.
They're the Canadian. That's most of the Canadian trucks.
I've got my eye right now on on a 2002 F350 7.3 liter, 1 ton, with 346,000 kilometers on it.
That's your farm truck, the one that you're talking
But I
about?
talked to several people that know about vehicles, and they're like, "That's a fucking 1,000,000-mile motor." And I know the guy that's had it, and I know he's taken good. He's done the maintenance on it for the most part. Pretty regular. So I'm thinking, and then my other buddy's like, "Yeah, you'll get at least 600 kilometers out of that thing. And I can get it for like $2,500."
Yeah, that's pretty good.
Yeah, so I'm gonna grab that, and I'm gonna put a big old fucking grill on it and a winch, some big fucking fat tires. I honestly think I'm just gonna slowly migrate into driving that more and more. Nice big diesel for the highway miles, for hunting, for
You won't
plowing.
do it. You won't. I'm telling you, don't have your heart set on that. You're not going to migrate from your new truck to like an old farm truck like that. It's not going to happen.
I'm certain it is.
Oh.
I'm certain it is.
No, once you get in there for a while, it'll be fun bombing around the yard and like taking it hunting, but then you'll be like missing the little comforts of the new truck.
I don't think I will, man. I hate all the little comforts of the new truck. The little sensors and everything and the fucking airbags. I fucking had it. I've been saying for a while that as soon as I'm fucking, my next truck will not have any of this shit in it. It'll be a 90s or an early 2000, and we're going back. I'm going to keep this thing because it's great for the kids and it's good for road trips, and I paid a fortune for it. So it's like, it's going to be the road trip truck. I mean, all my driving is mostly work and hunting.
Yeah.
So it's like I might as well not be driving this thing.
Yeah.
Fuck it. I could sell it. Can't sell them. When you buy them brand new, you can never sell them.
No, you can't sell them until like it takes you 5-7 years to get below the value.
Oh yeah, the amount of money I need to charge for this thing, people will be like, "What? You fucking nuts, buddy."
So yeah, I'm making the new office downstairs. Put up the walls. I haven't done the ceiling yet, but gonna do that and carpet it and make it nice and soft and cushy down there. It'll be nice. Yeah.
Did you put insulation in the walls?
The exterior walls already have plywood and insulation, so
Not putting any like sound insulation in the interior.
I am going to do that. Yeah.
In the office, at least.
Yeah.
Nobody does that, but it'd be a good touch for the office for sure.
I know. It's weird why people don't do it in the ceiling rafters. I was surprised to hear that, but I put some in the laundry area, like where the washroom is and the other, and the office has that as well, the soundproofing in the ceiling. So
there you go. When's the office warming party?
Oh, I don't know, dude. It's gonna be a while still. Got to drywall it and
the first stream.
Put the carpet in. I mean, maybe then would a month be unreasonable for that? I have no idea. I mean, I can only pick away at it like a couple hours.
A month is Christmas.
I know. Yeah, I wonder if I could do it by Christmas. I don't know.
It'd be a Christmas miracle. You should be like wearing a GoPro for all this.
I know, it's funny. I was thinking about that, like destroying the walls and ripping everything down and then putting up new ones and hammering it. And I got a few pictures, but I'm just not good at I don't want to. My automatic thing is not to take videos and pictures of myself doing stuff. I don't want to do it. So it's afterwards, I'm like, I could have been documenting more of this, but
yeah, it would have been good. I mean, we get grounded with some manly stuff. Be good for your image.
I was kicking through drywall, I was punching and kicking through drywall when I had the chance.
Punching it? Why would you punch it? Were you having
what?
Getting some rage out?
Well, just because having you want to punch a hole in drywall. I mean, when you're destroying the drywall, right? Just why not just punch it, kick your way through, right? Oh yeah, little,
I bet you that your level of anger towards that drywall was higher than it should have been. I would bet money. I would not want to be that drywall. Were you shouting any profanities when you were beating up the drywall?
No, just a fake seagull thing, ha, like that.
Did you draw any pictures on it? Draw a Trudeau face?
No, yeah. I should have done. See, I could have put like a poster of him on the wall and punched a hole in it. I mean,
All this stuff. Yeah.
you
All
know,
this great content that you
I
left
know
on.
I'm just not thinking content wise.
Speaking of great content, if you think that we have some great content, or even some good content from time to time, or even if we just help you kill time while you're driving to work, I mean, whatever level of love you have for the show, if you want to be a noble, if you want to help us keep doing the show, we were complaining earlier about how the debacle cost us all the support between that and the Trump and the COVID. And the PayPal apocalypse, that was like a quadruple threat that each of those sort of hacked off measurable percentage of our support. So we do still ask for support over at gramerica.ca/support if you're getting some value from the podcast. I mean, we're kind of teasing early because you do wonder if everyone's listening, because we used to get a larger percentage. I mean, we were up to almost 2% for a while.
No, I don't think so. I don't think we ever.
I think we were doing all right for a while. We were
1.5 maybe.
We got up off over 1, and now we're back down under 1. So, I mean, unless you guys are all just downloading, we're sitting on your plane. Maybe hello, maybe you're not listening. But if you are listening, send us a note. I mean, I won't even ask you for money right away. Just send a note, graham@gramerica.com. Let us know you're still listening. Let us know you're still getting some value from the show. Let us know who you want to hear on the show. And the rest of you, head over to gramerica.ca/support today. Sign up for a monthly or make a one-time donation. It could be $1 a month. And we will be happy and supported, feel supported. And whatever you do, if you sign up for a monthly or make a one-time donation, you can send us a note. We'll read that for you. If you get to $1,000, you could be a lord of Gramerica. And for 10 grand, you could be a god of Gramerica. I mean, imagine that. Like, I don't know, we'll send you some paperwork. So
that wasn't part of the original plan, but I mean, after a few episodes, that came up. We're like, we could do it.
It came. Well, yeah, we'll see if we can do it. We can say it. We can say it. Whether or not we could do it remains to be seen. But you can help us at gramerica.ca/support today. We do have some supporters to mention for the first week in a while. So thank you. I mean, it's been weeks and weeks without any support to mention. So this week we have, I think it's, from Joel Villanueva, 4421. Darren's belated wedding present. Congrats, man. God bless you, Shauna, and the kids. I thank him for bringing you together and pray he lets nothing come between you. Cheers. So thanks, Joel. Appreciate it, buddy. Joel's been listening for years, so thanks. And then we have Abe Schmidt over on Patreon. Bumped their membership up from 111 to 555.
Nice. Thanks, Abe.
5x. That's a 5x. I mean, if you guys all did a 5x, I would shut the fuck up. I would quit complaining. We might not even beg for support.
Quit our day jobs, maybe.
Yeah. And then we have Timothy Taylor, double T's, signed up for $5.55 a month.
Thanks, Tim.
Michael Turner signed up on Patreon for $9.99 a month.
Thanks, Michael. Wow.
And then we have old friend of the show, Ryan Shears, one-time donation of $100. No note. No one sent you a note?
No, I don't think so. You know what? I did get something about Ryan, actually. I better take a quick look.
So we are back on the board after the dry spell. Those might have been like the first donations in November as we close out in the end. We are coming in on Christmas too. I mean, I got to tell my kids there's no presents. I mean, don't put me in this position.
Okay, I got a note from Ryan, but it's not. I don't think it's
the money basketball gambling.
Hey, Graham, sounds like you're getting acclimated to the new home area from the recent podcasts. While scrolling Twitter, I saw you replied to Garrett's post about Paul Hellyer. I listened to both his and both of your podcasts, and it never hit me, but you guys having a discussion with Garrett and or Klaus would be an entertaining listen. I messaged them via their website. Well, so thanks, Ryan. And then I followed Garrett after he told me about this. I haven't heard anything about exercise or diet recently. If I've been absent-minded because I'm doing chores while listening. But if not, let's go. Stick with it during the holiday season so the new year isn't harder to take on. Thanks for everything and keep doing what you do, Ryan. Well, thanks for the donation, Ryan, as well. And yeah, thanks for the sort of kick in the ass about exercise and diet. I mean, I'm working a physical job now at like painting for a couple days a week. So that's actually kept me in better shape.
A physical job painting.
What?
A physical job painting.
Well,
By
it is.
physical job, you mean a job where you move? Yeah, I guess it's just not a desk job.
It's just, yeah, getting up and, getting out of the desk a bit. Yeah.
Yeah. So half the painters wear shorts to say.
I wear shorts. Yeah. I mean,
Try and get them to wear their hard hats.
of course, of course I wear shorts,
Do you wear like
But I'm up and down a ladder, you're standing, crawling, kneeling, getting up and down. I mean, that's all like active, it's all active. Right? I'm not hauling steel in and out of buildings, but that's different.
Neither am I, but neither am I.
Yeah.
So yeah, thanks guys. We appreciate it. Of course, if you want to join those ranks, head over to gramerica.ca/support today. You could sign up for $1 a month. Could sign up for $1,000 a month. Could sign up for $5 a month. Could just make a one-time donation. Whatever you want. We'll read your note. Send us a note.
I got a note from Trevor. I think that these post-CAC notes have been started. There's a sort of a thread started, and here we go from Trevor. I think who started? Was it Johnny that started it, or I think we've got a note every week from a post-CAC attendee, contacted the cabin attendee. So this
After I got cacked
from Invermere. Off on my trip to CAC 2024, Invermere and hunting. Left my house 7 o'clock, 1 hour after I had planned. Heading to Golden. It's my little sister's birthday, and I'm going to surprise her. Was a dark morning. Was almost in Valley View when boom, a bird, owl, bounced off my windshield. A loud cracking sound shattered the passenger side of the windshield. I mean, that's actually crazy, eh? That an owl would shatter the windshield like that. I've had a rock shatter, like, put a 2 or 3 inch sort of half hole into the windshield, but the actual shatter it, that's pretty crazy.
What wouldn't shatter it? It was like spider web, because it has a protective film on it.
Yeah, well, that rock glass fell into the car from that rock.
The rock will like poke a hole.
Yeah,
an owl would just like push it in, like when you hit someone,
Yeah.
Never hit someone and had them go through your windshield.
Yeah, I know. So within the passenger side, so we could still see. Pulled in at Valley View, got some food, made some calls to the town a few hours away. Whitecourt, they didn't have one in stock, so I called down to Calgary. They had one. So I decided to reroute and make a stop there. Stopped in Whitecourt for gas, then hit the highway at 130 kilometers. They said I had to be there by 3 o'clock, and it's 8-hour drive, so that put me into Calgary at 3. So I had to give her. Along the way, decided to make some more calls and try to get into Edmonton. The place in Leduc I called didn't have it, but they had one in South Edmonton. They knew I'd be there around 12. I made it around 11:45. They told me it would be in at 1:30. I didn't call them to find this out, a mistake, which could cost me my appointment in Calgary. I had to act quick. I decided to go for it. Fuck it. Back to the road, determined to make it. I know I can. I told myself, it's looking good. I'll make it. As I'm looking at how many kilometers I have till empty, it looks like too much. 256 kilometers and I'm at a quarter tank. Doesn't add up. Keep driving, but I don't trust it. Then I realize that's my kilometers till next service thing I'm looking at. Then my gas light comes on and I switch 16 kilometers till empty. I had 44 to my destination, but I know I can't trust this, that I have more than that. I think it's about 50 when that rings in. Now I'm in Calgary city limits on the Deerfoot. No idea where I am or where the next closest gas station is. And if I take a chance and exit to get fuel, I will miss my appointment. So I keep going, have faith in the universe that I will make it. Now riding on 0 kilometers till empty. I'm close. Then I see I'm close to the glass shop. Turn right and I'm there across the street. It's a Shell station. It's a Shell gas station. I made it. 2:46. Wow, what a day. On a side note, I've just come off doing a sober October and have been having more dreams lately. One of them did have an owl in it. It was a crawling along, not flying. Wasn't sure why. Not sure what that means. Synchro? Was that the one I hit? that I saw in the dream. The other part of this trip today was to surprise my little sister for her birthday. So as I finally get to town, 2 hours later than planned, I get to her house. My mom had been stalling them to go pick up some pizza. I get there, walk up to her door. As she's walking out, and boom, there I am. Surprise, happy birthday. She absolutely lost her shit. She couldn't believe I was there, that this was real, that I was there. She got super emotional and cried, and then it hit me. All the day's events led up to that exact moment. It could not have happened any other way. The timing was perfect. Universal timing, divine timing. What a day. Trevor.
Thanks, buddy.
Awesome story, Trevor.
Yeah.
Good to see you again. Good to get to know you a bit better.
Oh yeah, me and Trevor settled in for like 10 days.
Yeah, right.
Almost 10 days, yeah. Because he got to my house on the 2nd.
Right.
The 2nd? Yeah, he got here on the 2nd, and we headed out, hunted for 4 nights, and then stayed a night here, and then out to CAC for 3. Fast times.
Yeah. Awesome.
What an adventure. I mean, speaking of CAC, we got our Bonneville Flood adventure coming out with Randall Carlson in May. And wouldn't you know it, we're going to the Azores in November for almost 2 weeks, 12 days. 12 days, 5-star, all-inclusive trip. 3 islands, 3 flights also included. Tickets on sale December 6th, unless you're on the wait list. Some waitlisters got a pre-buy code. Hey, maybe if you send a donation in, I'll give you the pre-buy code. Or if you're a lord or a lady, let us know. But other watch for that. There's only 24 tickets available, so it'll probably go fast. But that, of course, is with Randall Carlson, Brad Young, and the Gramerica guys, and Nick and Rob. And we're going to be looking for Atlantis in the Azores for 12 days on 3 different islands. And we've seen some slides. And there's some slides. If you go to the event page, I updated it today with there's about 15 pictures or so on the page now. So some pictures of some like overgrown, crazy looking stonework that looks pretty out of place. There's that one very apparent pyramid. I've got a theory that that other rock stuff he was climbing around with all the trees on it is also like an old ass pyramid. So, I mean, there's definitely tons of evidence of a pre-Portuguese civilization over there. So we're going to check that out firsthand with Randall Carlson and the other guys and 24 other people, or at least to the accountant. So, I mean, this could go quick. You might want to at least get a deposit in if that's something you're thinking about. Then you have till next August to pay it off. So check that out. You could just go to Gramerica, right? And get to events easily. From there, you go to contact. It's not on the contact the cabin page yet, is it?
No, I don't think so. But it's in the show notes right now.
Sorry, can you get Andre to add it?
Yeah.
Begrudgingly.
Yeah.
Off his phone while you're on the phone and he's at a stoplight. Check it now.
It's gonna be amazing. I mean, some original research there too. Like it's an underrated part of the whole story, I think, really. And I mean, like Darren said about the pre-Portuguese, like I think the mainstream sort of narrative is like the Portuguese showed up and that was it. But I mean, there's stuff there that looks a lot older. It's gonna be really fascinating. Maybe even some megalithic stuff and some spiritual kind of esoteric stuff as well. I mean, and Randall will be there presenting his stuff on Atlantis, and we'll have a Zoom call with Randall and the team ahead of time. Yeah, it's gonna be
some
great.
audiobooks we're gonna throw in.
Right.
To ticket buyers and a bunch of hot springs. So and some great add-ons. There's an overnight camping trip add-on on Pico that people can do if they want to like climb up to the top of Mount Pico and camp there overnight in the crazy starlight. People can do that while we're there. That's an add-on for I think $150 or something like that. And then we're looking at some fishing stuff too, or maybe a boat. We might get a boat ride in there. So it's still coming together on the finer details. We know where we're staying. We know they're awesome places. The menu on the first hotel in San Miguel is fucking amazing. It'll be the best food we've had at a CAC. Say maybe that prime rib that yours truly sliced up at the last time. I mean, that stuff was pretty good. That'd be tough to beat. But we're going to try and beat that in the Azores. And of course, we do have that other trip. If you don't like going abroad, we got that other trip in Bonneville coming up in May 11th to 17th, mostly in Idaho. It's almost all in Idaho, I want to say. So it's a little bit in Utah, mostly in Idaho. So that's going to be a time over there. Check that out. Contact at thecabin.com. Anything else? Is that it?
I think that's about it. I mean, yeah, I got a bio. From Vish, after a successful career as an engineer, executive, and entrepreneur, Vish Chatterji is honoring his sole purpose as an East meets West executive coach and Vedic teacher. He helps people find light in their work through the wisdom of his ancestors. I love the way he explained this on the show, actually, too. It's awesome. Leveraging the traditions of yoga, meditation, Ayurveda, Vedic philosophy, and Jyotish, Vedic astrology. His coaching practice, Head and Heart Insights, serves clients across the globe. And he is a faculty coach and educator for the Berkeley Executive Coaching Institute at UC Berkeley. But I also just want to mention his book again. And this is all at vishchatterji.com. And you can just click on the book tab. It's like /astrology-decoded. The Secret Science of India's Sages. Discover the 9 personality types that shape the way you live, work, and love. So, yeah, check it out.
Yeah, great chat with Vish. It really is one for the books. Hope you enjoy it.
Vish Chatterji, welcome to Grimerica. Thanks for joining us. We're looking forward to talking about Vedic astrology and your book, Astrology Decoded, The Secret Science of India's Sages. So thanks for joining us.
Yeah, happy to be here, Graham. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, this will be fun. I was just thinking, I've got some sort of off the wall, interesting questions for you later about my own kind of astrological thing. I've been looking into it a little bit more, but we can save that for later.
Okay.
For now, like, what was it like going from engineering to all this? Like, it seems like your background had kind of a technical aspect to it, executive engineering, and now you're not now, but whenever you shifted, you're into astrology. You want to talk a little bit about that in your background?
Yeah, I'm still, at heart an engineer and a data guy. I like to see data and science and things that back up, what people put out there. And then I'm also an executive. I was an executive for many years in the corporate world. And I have a lot of executive clients. I still do a lot of work in the corporate space. I'm an executive coach and I help, leaders, CEOs, executives, business owners figure out how to run their business, how to run their teams. But I also bring in a lot of astrology into it. And so this is an audience that is also quite skeptical like I was. And I would say, I started as an engineer. I studied mechanical engineering, went into the auto industry in Detroit, worked on car engines. I was an engine engineer. And then I went to business school, got an MBA, went into the corporate ranks of the auto industry. And that was probably when I had to have a little bit more soft skills than just, pure hard science and engineering, because I had to manage people and teams and persuading people. And I got into sort of a marketing role, understanding different groups of people across the world and figuring out what kind of car to build for them. And so that was the first time I started getting really interested in human psychology as part of my business, because I had to understand human psychology first off to figure out what kind of car to build, but also how to convince the humans in the room to put the money behind the ideas that I had. And a lot of that training was also, as an executive, training in leadership. So they would train us on how to improve yourself, how to improve yourself as a human being. And all that time, I'd always had a yoga and meditation practice. So I started practicing yoga right out of college, actually, in the 90s. And I maintained a morning yoga and meditation routine no matter what. So I would, be traveling the world, as a corporate executive, but I always had this morning practice to kind of ground me. And as I got deeper into understanding yoga, I realized there was a lot more to yoga than just what you do on the mat. There's a whole philosophical system. And I found that philosophy was all around developing yourself as a human being. And here in executive management, all the training was around how to develop yourself as a leader. And I saw an intersect between the two. And so
what year would that have been approximately?
I would say in the mid 2000s, I started to really think like, hey, wait a minute, what I'm learning about in yoga seems to correlate to what I'm learning about in management, but I wasn't very public about it, right? And then when I finally left the corporate world and decided to become an executive coach, which was about 8 years ago, in 2016, 2017, I started bringing that to the forefront of my work. And I started coaching executives through the philosophy of yoga.
Wow.
To improve their leadership.
That's awesome. Yeah, I love that. I met a guy who was going through the yoga teacher training and stuff, and he was shocked at how esoteric it was, I guess, or how he was like, dude, this is like a secret society. He didn't realize how deep it went. How you got to go through these initiations, kind of, and stuff like that. And did you go through any of that? Like, did you realize at the time how deep it really went, and how ancient the wisdom was?
Yeah, I mean, initially I was just like, hey, I want to feel good about my health and my body and my mind and become more resilient. So it's almost like a way to center ground and relieve stress. But as I got deeper in the system, and of course, I went to India and did a full yoga teacher training at a traditional Himalayan ashram.
Nice.
And, when you start to activate that energy and you start to understand it, then you realize like, wow, this is the ultimate system for personal development. And what is everybody trying to do these days? They're trying to develop themselves. And so, I feel like I came across the ultimate self-development system that is, like you said, esoteric, magical, woo-woo out there a little bit, but you can take parts of it and make it very digestible for the average person. And so that's what I did. My first book about 5 years ago. It was called The Business Casual Yogi. And the whole idea was that I was to take all these esoteric teachings, but frame them in a way that works for everyday working people in the modern world, and how to incorporate a little bit of that mystical magic in your day-to-day mundane existence in today's society.
That's awesome too. I mean, that must have been good timing because Silicon Valley was kind of going through that whole, psychedelic renaissance in a way. Meditation was becoming, mindfulness was becoming like a buzzword in the corporate world too. People were realizing how important it was to be present.
Yeah,
especially in a business environment. I mean, I remember my dad telling me he passed away in 2003, but he was, because I took some meditation classes in the mid 90s and stuff, and I was doing yoga in the early 2000s a little bit, not that deep at all, but I did enough meditation over the years to realize how.
To realize?
I lost you. I wonder to realize how important it was. I think maybe he was going to say.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's the thing for me is I started doing this meditation as a way to just center and reduce stress. But what happens is as you meditate, you start to access deeper faculties in your own being. So you start to access your deeper intuition. And what happens is people that meditate, their gut instinct improves. So what I started to do is when I started teaching meditation in the corporate world, it was a way for people to not only deal with stress, but also a way to connect to their deeper gut instinct, to become more in tune with what's happening in the room during a meeting.
That, do you think, so what, like when you were starting out doing the training for the executive stuff, was that like, what sort of training was that before you started to bridge it in the yoga? Like I'm interested in what the corporate sector, because I know like in the 90s, it probably would have been like a lot of Dale Carnegie stuff and stuff like that. So is that the kind of stuff you were doing from the corporate side of things?
I was doing,
Tony Robbins, those are
yeah,
those are the big sort of
motivational. Yeah,
corporate
exactly. Yeah.
motivational guys when I hear that sort of thing. And the thing is they sort of cross over pretty well with that whole spiritual aspect of things. So I'm wondering if those were sort of the guys you were doing, or if there's some more rigid.
A little different. I went to the to UC Berkeley's Executive Coaching Institute. So they have a standalone institute called the Berkeley Executive Coaching Institute. And a lot of what they teach is this concept of really becoming a confidential and professional sounding board for executives. So, whereas a Tony Robbins might come and say, "Hey, I'm going to motivate you. I'm going to inspire you." My approach is more that, "Hey, I recognize you have all the wisdom, you have all the tools in you. And so my job is to be more of a guide and a facilitator for your own innate wisdom and talents to come through." And I find that, in the fast-paced corporate world, people don't have time to slow down and really kind of go deep into what's behind their thinking. And they can't share openly with their colleagues because, again, everything you say in the corporate world could be used against you, right? Like, oh, they said this dumb idea, and what are they thinking? There's this constant judgment and this constant need to perform a certain way. So in an executive coaching session, it's sort of this private discussion where an executive can sort of sound out what may at first sound like a dumb idea, but as they're going through and talking it out, we're refining it and they're polishing it. And so when they leave the coaching session, they're much more firm in their thinking, much more polished in their delivery. And then when they go to that meeting and try to convince the team, they're ready, they're there. So it's a little bit of a different approach, not so much like a rah, let me motivate you. It's more like, let me be your confidant for you to think through things out loud. And then I'll test and argue those in a safe environment. I've done things where somebody was afraid to let go of their CFO and there's a CEO of a company. And, because the CFO is just a very intimidating personality. So I said, tell me about the CFO. And I kind of learned about that person's character and I role played it. And I pretended I was him and I would, shoot back and argue back the things that CEO was saying. And they got to test out 4 or 5 different approaches to have the difficult conversation so that they were ready. And then once they went and had the conversation, it was much more successful. So it's very creative, fun work, actually.
That's awesome. I think I'm back. My mixer crashed there. Can you hear me? Okay.
Yeah, I heard you perfectly.
Yeah, I missed the last couple minutes of that there, but just my dad told me and when he was kind of giving me advice for the corporate, I was working in the aerospace, I was following in his footsteps. Oh. And he kind of said, be present. His whole thing was stay in the moment, be present in the meetings. He was talking about when you're in meetings and stuff, right? Be present and connect with people. And I didn't really realize at the time how wise that really was. It just seemed like simple advice, but it was really wise wisdom.
And that's when I teach executives how to meditate, I always talk about meditation as having some object of meditation. So whatever it is, it might be a mantra, it might be your breath, it might be a sound, it might be an image, whatever it is, your mind drifts and then you come back. Your mind drifts and you come back. That's the whole process of meditation. And every day you practice this coming back. And so then when you sit in a meeting and you drift, you're much better at coming back. Yeah. In fact, even in coaching school, we were trained on meditation because as a coach, you have to be able to come back to the point that the client is making, right? Client starts talking about something, it triggers a memory in your mind, and then you're off into your own story. You have to have a way to quickly come back to be on presence, right?
And not only to be able to quickly come back, but I think the more you practice that, the more you just don't go away either. I mean, the more you're able to just stay in the moment without having to bring it back all the time. I think that practice really helps just, the times, the gap between, your thoughts going somewhere else,
Yeah. Yeah. You've done some training, Graham. I can tell. The gap between the thoughts is where the wisdom shines. As Buddhist saint once said.
Yeah. So I also thought when I was reading your bio about engineering and stuff, how astrology kind of is a technical, and in some ways it is pretty technical, right? I mean, the planets have attributes, they have, our signs and all that stuff is it is kind of there. It's data. It's measurable.
Yeah.
So
in India, Indian astrology, Vedic astrology, a lot of the people that get into it are engineers. So a lot of scientists, a lot of engineers. Some of the best books have been written by doctors. One of this very famous writer, Dr. Charak, he's the head of the Spinal Surgery Institute in New Delhi. He's a very decorated astrologer. There's a famous astrologer here in the US who's Indian, and he's an engineer by day. He's like a nuclear engineer, and then he does astrology on the side. And that's what I realized. The Western astrology system is a little bit more of a psychological sort of evaluation. And so the people that get into Western astrology are a little bit more interested in the workings of the human mind. They're interested in, and they're a little bit woo-woo. They're a little bit like, hey, let me do something different here. And so astrology in the West has fallen into the same realm of all these other divination tools, which are not really accepted by mainstream society, right? And so, if even if you had told me years ago, like just probably even 8 years ago, if you'd said to me, hey, I'm into astrology, I would have looked at you funny. I would have said, that's kind of wacko, woo-woo, hocus pocus stuff. I don't believe in that. I'm an engineer. I'm an executive. It doesn't make sense to me. And so I sort of discounted, for a long time, all of these interesting sciences actually that help us understand our human journey.
I like it. Have you ever heard that saying that it's not the millionaires that believe in astrology, it's the billionaires?
Yeah, the person who said that was J.P. Morgan.
Oh, no way.
So I don't know how trustworthy J.P. Morgan, the one who founded one of the biggest banks on the planet, but yeah, he said that billionaires don't believe in astrology, but billionaires do. And I start to understand that there is something there. And in India, I mean, politicians, wealthy people, big family dynasties, they all have astrologers to this day. And in India, astrology has been practiced continuously for thousands of years. I mean, there was no interruption. Whereas in the West, it's a little bit more of it. It was there at one time in society, maybe the Greeks, the Babylonians, Mesopotamia, then it sort of disappeared. And now it's kind of this new agey resurgence. But in the Indian system, it's been continuous for the whole time.
That's awesome. So what would you use it for from a business perspective, or for helping, like grow a business, or for, watching sort of when to make moves, I guess, that kind of stuff? Would you be able to explain some of the benefits there?
Yeah, maybe I should tell how I got there first, and then
sure. Yeah.
Context, right? So what happened was, I'm the skeptical engineer, but I've shifted out of engineering into executive management, and then I shifted out of executive management into a startup, and then went through lots of stuff with the startup, and finally came out of the mess of it, deciding to coach. And as an executive coach, I decided I'm going to be this East meets West coach. I'm going to bring in my Western MBA, Western management experience of 20 years in the corporate world with this yoga background that I have from my heritage and from my own practice. And as I was going deeper into yoga, I discovered a sister science to yoga called Ayurveda. So you may have come across this, the mind-body medicine system of ancient India. And it's a very powerful healing modality to heal people from disease. And in order to understand somebody's disease propensity, they evaluate your mind-body constitution. It's called a dosha. And my first book, I talked a lot about this idea of a dosha, where you figure out your mind-body constitution. You're either a vata, pitta, or kapha, which basically translates to an airy personality, a fiery personality, or an earthy personality. And I started to take this mind-body medicine system and apply it to your leadership personality. So without trying to heal people of their disease, I would just say, let me help understand, using this framework, are you a fiery leader, an earthy leader, or an airy leader, or watery leader, whatever it is, right? Very emotional leader. And I would give my clients, so I started discovering Ayurveda, I started training in it, and I started giving my clients a questionnaire, like a personality quiz. And corporate world loves quizzes.
Oh, yeah.
They pay tens of thousands of dollars to quiz their team to find out what is the personality type of the team. And those, $20,000 quizzes include the Myers-Briggs personality type indicator, the Strengths Finder, the DISC profile. I mean, there's a ton of them out there. They new ones keep coming out, and it's like the latest and greatest. And then people walk around and say, oh, this is my personality type, and look at me, and that's why I lead the way I do. And I thought, I think there's a more sophisticated way with this Ayurveda system. So I would give a quiz. And of course, executives are like, I'd love to fill out a quiz and figure out my personality type. And I'd say, but there was a disconnect. I would look in front of me, like I would see, let's say, Graham, you. And I could see this fiery kind of driven personality who's going to ask hard driving questions. And they would take the quiz and it would match. So I'm like, okay, that sounds like it's a good match. I'm good. But then I would see somebody like Darren, who's, more grounded and more sort of calm and not maybe as go-getter type, but more like a good listener. But he would fill out the quiz, and instead of earthy type coming out, it would come up as fiery. And I'm like, what's going on here? Why is everybody coming up as a fiery type? Well, in corporate America, if you're a type A personality,
Right.
you get promoted.
Yeah.
So people were like self-selecting to a personality that wasn't their natural nature.
Right.
Right?
That makes sense.
So I'm like, what's going on here? Like, my quiz is broken. They're cheating on the quiz. So I went to my Ayurvedic doctor, teacher, he's a mentor to me, Dr. Suhas Shirsagar. And I said, Dr. Suhas, my clients are cheating on the quiz. What do I do? And he said, well, look at their birth chart. Look at their astrology birth chart. And I said, what? You're a doctor. You're telling me to look at astrology charts? I don't get this. I don't believe that. I don't believe in astrology. He said, well, look at the Indian system. That is another sister science to yoga. There's yoga, there's Ayurveda, and there's Jyotish, which is the Indian Vedic astrology system. He said, just pull up their birth chart using the Indian system and see what you find. And the first thing I learned was when you pull up a birth chart of somebody in the Vedic system, it's using accurate math to the sky. So what you see on a birth chart matches what you see in the sky. So what I see on my computer screen, I can look out the window and see the same thing. The Western astrology chart doesn't map to the sky. So it's almost, to me, it was like a non-reality based system versus a reality based system. One system maps to the sky, one system is not correct to the sky. So then my engineering mind is like, okay, I'm kind of starting to get this, but I'm going to test it, right? I got to test it out. I'm an engineer. So a few clients that I trusted and that trusted me, I said, hey, can you give me your time of birth, your date of birth, and where you're born? And so give it to me. And I'd look at their chart and I'd say, oh, I can see that you are a fiery type. Or I'd say, oh, you're an earthy type. Even though you took my quiz and said you're fiery, I see airiness here. And they're like, how did you know that? How did you know that about me? And then I would start pointing out things about them that they're like, there's no way you could have known that. I've been trying to hide that for years. So then I thought, after, 10, 15 rounds of getting it right, what else can I do with this birth chart? And that opened up the whole universe of diving deeper into understanding people through astrology. And now it's become, a very significant part of my practice.
Wow. That's awesome. What a great story.
Can you just read it like the Matrix now, or you just like, you can just like, like how many different, because you've heard the thing where there's the 16 different types or the 32, or like when you meet people, can you sort of categorize them into different things and sort of make, maybe not blanket assumptions, but probably fairly safe assumptions. And then you can sort of get safer on those assumptions the more you talk to them.
You can. I mean, definitely in India, there are people who are face readers. There are people who are palm readers. They can literally look at your face and they know your birth chart. They look at your palm and they can see the birth chart in it. They look at your language and your intonations and your body language, and they can understand your birth chart. For me, I need the birth chart. That's the crutch I have. I'm not at that level, right? But yes, you can figure things out based on people. And the more charts I read, the more correlations I start to see. I'm like, oh yeah, that person seems like an Aries type of person. That person's very emotional. They seem like a Cancer or a Pisces. So yes, I can start to make that. But usually if I pull the birth chart for the moment they were born, that chart reveals a lot to me. And you asked a question about the matrix. So this is something that's been interesting for me lately is we're all in a matrix, right? We're all living in a matrix, and we feel like subject to the rules and laws and systems of the matrix. But what's interesting about astrology, it's sort of giving you the inner workings of how that matrix works. And where Vedic astrology becomes very interesting is it gives you tools to literally reach behind the matrix, reach in there, and turn a couple of knobs and readjust things.
Wow.
And that's what's been fascinating to me is how there are some things in your life you don't have access to the knobs. Some things you may have access to the knobs, but they're too hard to turn. And there are some things you have access to the knobs and you can turn them quite easily and make profound shifts in your life.
Can you give us a couple of those examples of the easy turns?
Yeah, so easy turns might be that somebody says, "Hey, we're trying to have a baby in the family," right? And they've got some really difficult karma around having children. and I will give them certain remedies, certain rituals, certain mantras to practice. And miraculously, after years of trying and nothing working, just with a little bit of an astrology look and giving that advice, it shifts. It shifts, and all of a sudden they're able to conceive. In a few cases, somebody has a medical issue and they can't figure it out, and they're struggling. They've been to doctors, they've been getting tests, it hasn't worked out. And I can look at the chart and say, hey, you know what? Ask the doctor to run these tests in this anatomy area of your body, and they'll come back and say, oh, yeah, the results came back. They figured out and root caused my issue. So it's been interesting for me to see that with some effort, there are some things in your life you can change. Somebody's having trouble getting a job or getting a promotion. And I can see, okay, there's this planetary energy that is blocking them from that. Give them some activities and lifestyle changes that accentuate that planet's energy. And within a few weeks, sometimes miraculously within a few weeks, the promotion happens. So I'm realizing that we have, anything that's out of balance in our life can be at a physical level, at our physical body. There can be imbalance at the mental, emotional level. And there's also imbalance at the causal or karmic level. And so you can adjust things in your life on your body, on your mind, but also at the karmic level, at the soul level, so to speak.
Wow, that's fascinating. So the question I had, it might be a good time to ask it, is I was looking at after discussing astrology on another show with Darren and I was looking back at the cycles so where I was born and on my chart. So for example, Mercury was in 23 degrees Cancer.
Okay, now is that a Western calculation?
It's probably Western. It's from it would be from triskelion.com. I'm pretty sure it's Western.
Yeah, so the thing about the Western calculation is not accurate to the sky. And so I feel like the Western astrologer has an incredible amount of intuition, and the power of their intuition allows them to make sense and meaning of something, even if it's not correct to the sky.
Okay.
And the Western astrology system is also to understand really your psychology. And, sometimes we say the Western system is kind of like a photograph of you, but the Vedic system is like a deep 3D X-ray scan into your soul.
Okay.
We're trying to get down to the soul level. To get to the soul truth, you need that accurate. And the miscalculation to the sky is about 23 degrees. So if you said, hey, my Mercury's at 23 degrees of Cancer, it could have been one sign earlier in Gemini.
Okay. For this example, let's assume I'm using the Vedic one then. So let's say Mercury's in 23 degrees Cancer and it's Vedic. So how come I've never heard about this, or do people even follow this? But why wouldn't I pay attention to when that comes back around? So for me, it might be mid-July 2025. Or a better one, because I am a Cancer, so that's kind of weird because it comes around on my birthday. But even like Venus, for example, it might be mid-August 2025.
Well, I can pull up your chart and we can look at it if you want.
Yeah, let's do it. Yeah.
You can bleep out the birth details part, but I can pull it up for you. So let me just.
No, that's fine.
Yeah, everyone knows when Graham was born by now.
Okay,
everyone knows he cried at Elton John. Everyone knows everything about him.
What's your month and date?
So July 11th.
July 11.
1970.
Okay. And time?
5:36 a.m. Montreal, Quebec.
Okay. And so I got to go Canada. And then Quebecois and Montreal.
Yeah, and what I'm interested in is the planetary cycles, because they come back around. So couldn't I use that to pay attention to or modify my sort of life cycles, because the planets have correspondences, the zodiacs have correspondences.
So at the moment you were born, at 5:36 a.m. 1970, July 11th, Montreal, Quebec, Mercury was at 29 minutes, meaning not even 1 degree into the sign of Cancer.
Okay.
Which is interesting because that means the planet hadn't fully moved in. And I'm using calculations accurate to what an astronomer would see.
Okay.
I think that's why astrology gets a bad reputation, because it doesn't line up with astronomy. Right?
So that's really close to the edge then, between
really close to the edge.
Yeah. Okay.
But the thing is, Graham, you are a Gemini rising. So what that means is, at the moment you were born, if you stood in front of the hospital and took a telescope and looked all the way to the eastern horizon, the actual star constellation of Gemini was rising. Okay. And Gemini is a sign of communication.
Okay.
It's people who like to communicate.
All right.
communicate. They also see the two sides of everything. They see both sides of everything. They're kind of minded.
Okay.
And when it's on the eastern horizon, it's only on that eastern horizon for a couple of hours. So if you're born an hour or two later, it would have been Cancer. Then it would have been Leo.
Okay.
So it changes, right? On that day, on July 11th, every couple of hours, that eastern horizon is changing, just like the sun rises a certain time and the eastern horizon keeps changing. If you are born somewhere else on planet Earth at that same time, same month, same date, there would also be a different horizon because, as you know, different places on planet Earth, different eastern horizon. So this is very specific to that couple of hours at that moment you were born.
Okay.
And so it really, truly describes kind of your soul personality. Gemini, right? Now, then you have to understand that the planet Gemini, the sign Gemini has a planet that rules it. So don't just think about signs like, oh, I'm a Gemini, that's it. What is the planet that is behind Gemini? That is the planet Mercury.
Oh, that's interesting. Okay.
So Mercury becomes very important for you. So of all the questions you asked me today, the first question you're going to ask is, what about Mercury?
And I did. Is that the one I used? I think that's the one I used, right?
You're like, Mercury is at this degree. What do you
really
think?
interesting. Yeah.
So because Mercury is the main planet for you. And so whenever Mercury is in the sky, it's going to have an outsized effect on you because it's the ruler of the eastern horizon when you were born. It's the ruler of your rising sign. And now Mercury is only at 29 minutes, not even 1 degree. So it's less than 1 degree in. So it's a bit unstable. It hasn't moved in. It's like you bought a new house, you got the keys, you open the door, you step across the threshold, and now you want to make an omelet. But the gas isn't turned on. There's no light. There's no electricity. Your pots and pans are in the moving truck. Your furniture is in the moving truck, and there's no stove. Then you're like, I can't make an omelet. Let me just go lie down there's no couch. You lie on the floor. So you don't feel like you're fully home. And if Mercury is that planet that it was the ruler of your whole first house, the chart, because that's the horizon, it destabilizes a lot of things for you.
That makes sense. Yeah. Wow.
Right. And then, of course, how do you improve Mercury? You say, okay, Vish, you told me that my Mercury's unstable. How do I make it stronger? Well, Mercury is the planet of speaking and communication. So Graham,
Gemini
speaking and communicating.
So is Gemini, right? So that's interesting.
So the more speaking you do, the more you stabilize Mercury, which stabilizes your whole life. And what have you been doing for the last 12 years?
Yeah.
Lots of speaking, right? Yeah. Lots of talking.
Trying to listen a lot, actually. Trying not to talk too much, but yeah. I guess that could be considered communication too, right? Listening?
Yes.
Yeah.
Communication is listening for sure.
Yeah.
Now,
that being said, you rant a lot more than you did in the beginning of the show. Like at the beginning of the show, you were just a lot more timid. You didn't really have a take on a lot of things. Yeah. And now sometimes you're just freaking out about stuff.
Yeah. So I'm basically looking at a picture or a snapshot of the heavens, of the sky at the moment of your birth.
Okay.
It becomes this locked in picture that, there's Mercury sitting in Cancer. You have, Venus sitting in Leo. We can talk about all that. But then today, as the planets move in space, in the sky, they're moving relative to your birth chart. So imagine your birth chart's fixed and then these planets are moving in the sky. And as they move, they stimulate where those positions were when you're born. So Mercury, for instance, is in one day in Aries, then in and then in Taurus a few weeks later, and it keeps moving. And every so often, Mercury keeps coming back to Gemini, re-stimulating the original Mercury position in your chart. That's what you're asking about, is a planetary return.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, exactly.
The planetary return. So I can look at, where the planets are today in space. And today, Mercury is in the Scorpio sign. So that means Mercury today in the sky is in Scorpio. So it's not over Gemini, but at some point, or not over Cancer where it was when you're born. But if I go back a few months, I'm going to go back to, let's see, around June 2024.
Are you doing this right from your website too?
No, I'm using a pretty sophisticated software. Yeah, that's a lot of math and calculation.
Okay. Yeah, because I saw a calculator. You do have a calculator on your website, right?
But, around, let's see, I'm going to get to the exact date here. On June 29th of this 2024, Mercury went over the exact same spot it was when you were born.
Okay. Awesome. It's exactly what what I'm trying to figure out. Yeah.
So on June 29th, around the end of June of this year, anything interesting happened with communication and income?
Yeah. I'll have to take a look.
Yeah, because it was in the house of income. And what's interesting is your Cancer is the second house of your chart. So when you were born, you had, I want to make sure my hand's on the screen so people can see. On the eastern horizon was Gemini. And if you start to drop below the horizon, it was Cancer.
Okay.
That was where Mercury was. Mercury was just below the horizon.
Oh, I see. Okay.
And that is known as the second house that's connected to income.
Okay.
So that means you, as a being, the lord of the first house of the chart, goes in the second house of income. You would make your income through speaking.
Wow.
So is your primary income through speaking?
It's through podcasting and narration of books. Yeah.
And narration of books, yeah. And Mercury,
which only happened, like, it would be interesting to see when when Darren and I sort of started on that narration path, because it was quite a definite spot where it's like I said no at first. I was all fearful, and then I kind of said to Darren, like, why don't we try to do this? Like, and it was somebody's book about spiritual alchemy too, it was pretty deep. Probably would fit in with a lot of this stuff. That's absolutely fascinating. So does the correspondences of the planets line up between Western and Vedic? Like, do you guys use the same kind of, like, the node signs and keywords and the correspondences?
Yeah. So we only
colors,
use
metals, all that stuff. Like,
I mean, the Western system, I believe, is derived from the Vedic system. So you can see the kind of Vedic has the original interpretations.
Okay.
And the Western system is like a derivative of it. So sometimes it matches, sometimes it doesn't.
Oh, okay.
But the Vedic system also has this deep connection to the mythology of the planets.
Yeah.
So, if I say Saturn in Vedic astrology, there's a whole mythology around who Saturn was. But I don't think in the Western system there's a mythology around Saturn. I don't know if it has a character or story around it. Right.
Okay.
And then the nodes. So in Western astrology, when you hear nodes, what does that mean? That's usually the answer. That's exactly the answer I get.
I'm trying to think. I'm sure I know, but because I was just on a thing that said planet nodes, signs, and keywords, but I just have the keywords and the signs, really, that I don't really know I can't remember what the nodes are.
That's exactly what I usually get when I ask people. They're like, I'm not sure. Then if I ask an astrologer, they'll say, oh, they're destiny points.
Okay.
I'm saying, okay, what is a destiny point? Oh, a karmic point. Okay, what is karma in Western astrology? And then it breaks down, because there's no concept of karma in Western astrology. It's not like part of the, I guess, philosophical system. But in India, the Vedic system has this huge branch of philosophy. There's the whole yoga system. There's the Ayurveda mind-body medicine system. There's the system of Vedic philosophy and the soul, the goal of the soul, the concept of reincarnation, the concept of karma, when what goes around comes around. And all of that feeds in as a foundation for Vedic astrology. So it's almost like Vedic astrology has this entire ecosystem of knowledge that supports it. And to me, the Western astrology feels like a bit of an orphan. It has nothing. It just has it. Right?
Yeah. Does JP Morgan use Vedic or Western? I mean, did the billionaires use Vedic?
He's long gone, so I don't know what he would use. And again, like I said, a Western astrologer. So pop culture Western astrology, they're like, what's your sun sign? What's your sign, baby? Right? Look it up in a magazine. That's it. A Western astrologer who's serious is going to pull up a birth chart with the wrong calculations to the sky, but their intuition makes up for that calculation difference, and they're able to make interpretations and give pretty accurate understanding of people. But there's no remedy system. You got a difficult planet, there's not really a lot to do about it.
So do you pay attention to all the planetary returns? I mean, not all of them, because Pluto might never come back, but I mean, there's some like, Saturn will come back every few years, or Jupiter will come back every few years. Is there like a ritual or some sort of like, should you be paying attention to certain colors or metals or other things as well? Could you incorporate that into the return? So
first off, we only use the planets that you can see with your visible eye, with your naked eye.
Okay, so Saturn.
Saturn is the furthest away planet that we use, because if you can see it, it can influence you. And this is all about your own individual development. The outer planets beyond Saturn are more like macro factors, not individual.
Is that why it was always 7 then? So Moon, Sun, Mercury, Mars, Jupiter, Saturn. Am I missing one there?
Yeah, Jupiter, Mercury, Venus, Mars.
Venus. So that's 7, right? That's why there was originally like 7 was the big number of all that, right? Because those are the ones you could see with the naked eye.
And that's where they came up with the days of the week, right?
Right,
So
right.
Vedic people said, hey, on the Sunday, we feel the sun's energy. On Lundi, Monday, we feel the moon's energy.
Yeah.
And you probably have some Canadians in the audience. Mardi, Mars Day. Mercredi, Mercury Day. Jeudi, Jupiter Day. Vendredi, Venus Day. Saturday, Saturn's Day. So we came up with 7 days a week because there's 7 planets. And if you add in 3 more planets, then you got to add 3 more days to the week, I guess. It breaks. So,
Wow.
So 7 days, 7 planets, 7 days of the week, 7 planes of consciousness. 7 is a very, very powerful number.
Yeah. What about the yearly calendar? Was it solar or lunar back then?
So it used to be a lunar calendar.
It did, eh? 28.
So today, all Indian festivals, all Hindu festivals take place based on the lunar calendar.
Wow.
So we still track the moon. You know, we know last night, technically it was last night was the full moon. Today is the first day of the new moon, you know, first day of the waning moon. So we track those days in Vedic astrology. So then you said, and then we have 2 nodes. So we have 7 planets plus 2 nodes makes 9. And we'll get into nodes in a second. And they're confusing forces. So you're supposed to say, I'm not sure about the nodes because their job is to confuse us.
Okay.
And meanwhile, you said about tracking planets. So yes, we track where the planets return in your chart, but also when they go over sensitive points, right? So the moon, for instance, represents your mind. And if Mars, the fiery warrior planet, happens to go over the moon location when you're born, you're going to have a period of a little temper. Let's say the 7th house of the chart, the Western horizon, is your house of relationships. Mars, the fiery planet, goes over the house of relationships. You're going to have some arguments with your romantic partner. That's what's going to happen. So we can make predictions based on those transits.
Wow.
They're called transits. But we also have in the Vedic system these planetary periods that you're in. So for instance, Graham, you at the moment are in a Saturn period of life. And since August 13th, 2024, you came into a Saturn moon period. And Saturn is a planet of restriction. Moon is the planet of mind. You may have felt a little bit of excess pressure on the mind, excess stress lately, because that's the planetary period you're in. But what area of life are you going to feel that stress in? It depends on where Saturn is transiting at the moment. Saturn at the moment is going through Aquarius, astronomically speaking. So if Saturn is in Aquarius, that is over your 9th house of higher purpose. So you're having some things about, what am I supposed to be doing right now? What direction do I need to go? What's kind of my higher journey and higher direction? So we can get to that specificity based on the transit, the period you're in, overlaid onto the static birth chart of your birth.
All right. Awesome. Any other like main points just from glancing at the birth chart with it all there? I know in the Western one, a whole bunch of my stuff was all in the bottom quarter, like all of it stuck in like 3 or 4 zodiacs. It was heavily weighted to one side.
Yeah, it isn't so much in the Vedic system because when you correct the math, they spread out more across the signs.
Right.
So one thing that's interesting is you actually have the sun in the first house. I mean, you're born very close to sunrise. And so the sun was on the eastern horizon as well. So your sun sign is actually Gemini. But I think that would be the same in both systems because your sun is 25 degrees of Gemini. If you subtract the 23-degree error, you're still within Gemini. So either way, you're a Gemini sun. But that gives you kind of this soul nature to want to communicate as well.
Okay. Interesting.
It soothes your soul to communicate. Then let's see, you have Jupiter in Libra in the 5th house, and Jupiter is a planet of wisdom. And the 5th house is connected to past lives, also connected to children. Do you have children?
No.
So Jupiter in the 5th house for you is actually a lot of knowledge from past lives.
Okay.
Have you ever done any past life work?
Yeah. Yeah, a little bit. Yeah.
Were you a teacher? Were you a...
No, I mean, I think I was a conspiracy theorist in the medieval times. I mean, one of them was like, I knew something about what the king was up to. I was a peasant sort of thing. There was something like that. I think I was a jester maybe one time. So I don't know. I didn't delve too deep. I just got a glimpse kind of.
Yeah, I see more of the past life connected to you actually being in a ruling capacity. that you're actually ruling.
Huh.
May have exposed,
Illuminati.
yeah, ruling as in a royal capacity, because your Ketu, which is the node we're talking about, is in Leo, and Leo is a sign of kings, and specifically your Ketu and Venus are in Magha Nakshatra, which is connected to ancestry and royalty. So, and you were probably female, so female royal person. That's what I would say from a past life look at the chart.
Princess.
Yeah, and you know, exposing conspiracies. Let me see about that.
Well, I don't know if I was exposing it. I just knew it.
Which is
You were the one behind the conspiracy.
What about the one with, maybe she was the one with the cake, the let them eat cake one.
You may have been the one behind the conspiracies, and that's why now your task in life is to expose and
Yeah, that's funny. Yeah, maybe. Maybe.
Yeah. So I mean that's the thing is, whatever you're doing in life, usually it's to kind of pay back something you did last time around. So perhaps you were behind some grand conspiracy, and now a lot of your work is explaining and exposing conspiracy.
Yeah, that's funny. I like it.
Do we have time to do mine?
Yeah, let's plug Darren's in. Thanks for that, Vish. That's great.
Yeah. All right. Go ahead, Darren. Date?
March 10th, 1981.
Okay. And time?
9 a.m.
8:09 a.m.?
Yeah.
8:09 a.m. Okay.
In Red Lake, Ontario.
Okay. Okay. Let's see. So in Red Lake, Ontario at 8:09 a.m., March 10th, 1981, on the eastern horizon was the sign of Aries. And so you're an Aries rising, which gives a pretty forceful, stubborn nature. A lot of times Aries people tend to bang their heads into walls a lot, either literally or figuratively. So have you had a lot of banging of heads into walls?
Probably, yeah.
Okay. And the moon is in the eastern horizon when you're born. And the moon is a planet of intuition and emotions and psychology. So a lot of your interest is going to be in human emotions, human psychology. The human mind will be a very big theme for you. And then the ruler of Aries being the first. Does that line up?
I think so. Yeah, that probably lines up pretty good. I mean, I listen to a lot of books about that sort of stuff.
Okay. And then Aries as a sign being on the eastern horizon, the planet that rules it is Mars. And Mars in your chart goes into the 12th house in the sign of Pisces. And that is a sign connected to spirituality. So a lot of your, it's a couple of things. So that 12th house is prisons and jails. It's also hospitals. It's also ashrams and spiritual retreats. So that means that you will be very interested in those subjects. And I think you wrote a book about people being imprisoned in schools. So that is that kind of
yeah. Well, we also own an event company that does what could probably be classified as spiritual retreats.
Yeah. So, and that's the thing about astrology is you realize that the 12th house is connected to escaping from the world, or being kept away from the world. And so at a lower order of energy, it could be a jail or hospital. Higher order of energy, it's a spiritual retreat or an ashram or a monastery. But because it's the Lord of your chart and it goes there, you'll have a fascination with those things. You'll have a fascination with ashrams, monasteries, spiritual retreats. You may even also have a fascination with places of confinement, like jails, or situations where people were confined.
Huh.
So then your 4th house has Rahu in it. So we haven't talked about Rahu and Ketu yet, but Rahu and Ketu are these two destiny points, they call it in Western astrology, but in Vedic astrology, they're considered serpents that were severed into two pieces. Rahu being the severed head and Ketu being the severed tail. Rahu rules like obsessions and I want more. And Ketu rules, I'm out of here. I don't want this anymore. And Ketu is in your house of career, meaning you probably had to change careers a few times and leave careers. You probably had jobs where you're like, you know what, I'm out of here. I don't want this anymore. So did you leave a bunch of jobs in the past?
Not recently, but when I was younger, I probably went through a few jobs, and then I've been at the same place I am now though for like 20 years.
Yeah. So
But I have started a slew of companies sort of in the last 5 or 6 years as well.
yeah. So your Ketu, which is the I'm out of here planet, is in a very specific star constellation in Vedic system. We call it Shravana, and it's symbolized by the ear. So basically, it says that you would leave your career continuously until you find a career that involves listening, or that involves the ear specifically. And so that's interesting. Is you left a bunch of jobs until you found a job where you're activating your ear, and then like I'm here, I found the right place.
That's crazy.
And then Rahu on the other side is in psychology. So there's sort of this sort of embracing of the human mind that is coming to you. So I think that's one of the things you should think about is you entered a Rahu period in 2009. It goes till 2027. And so these are years where you could almost become obsessed about, but interested in the human mind and emotions and the workings of the mind. So that's a good angle for you to like go deeper into.
Yeah, that makes sense. I listen to a lot of content about, the human condition.
Yeah, exactly right. Yeah. And you have a lot of interest in the healing arts as well. There's both your Jupiter and Saturn are in the house of the occult, actually, specifically. They're in a location connected to you having a lot of wisdom and knowledge around all the things that aren't normally talked about in mainstream society. And I think that lines up with your podcast, right?
Probably quite well, yeah. I'd agree with that.
Yeah.
That could be pretty much the tagline.
Yeah. Yeah, the occult, right? That's the occult is all things that mainstream people won't talk about. That's what the star sign that your two of very major planets in your chart are in.
Well, then at the same time, we also have like an entire publishing company that does that features occult books almost,
Yeah.
A lot of ancient wisdom books, and yeah, it's so interesting. And Darren, I mean, just as that you said about Darren listening. I mean, you said I'm speaking and Darren's listening. Well, I'm reading the books and Darren's like editing and listening to them. So, I mean, it can't get much more accurate than that.
Yeah. One thing that's interesting is, Darren, you have Saturn sitting in your, Graham, you have Saturn sitting in the sign of Aries. And that's a difficult location for Saturn. It can kind of take you a lot of hard work to get recognition because it's in your 11th house of recognition. But Saturn, where'd you guys go?
I'm still here.
Okay, I pulled up a Zoom by accident. Let me end my Zoom meeting. I had Zoom on the background. Okay, so what happens is, Graham, your Saturn is in Aries, which is a location where it gets debilitated is what it's called. So it takes a lot of hard work to get recognition in the world. But your Saturn is in Aries and Darren is in Aries rising with the moon there. So if you put your two charts together, it's like your Saturn sits on his moon, which is his mind.
Saturn is riding my coattails.
Yeah, no, he gives you pressure. Saturn's a planet of pressure, so he kind of pressurizes you. So there may be a dynamic where you find like you're getting sort of pressurized by Graham.
That makes sense, I think. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's an interesting one. So you kind of look where some of these planets are in relation to somebody else's, and you can see the influence. And so Darren may feel a sense of stress that comes from Graham.
All the time.
Yeah.
All the time.
Mm-hmm.
That's great. That's actually pretty good. It always seems like, now I can't remember the last one I did was Michael Wan. Was that a Vedic one too, Graham?
No, I don't think so. I don't think he's a fan of the Vedic system. I think he's a Western guy. Yeah.
He's a Western cat.
Well, actually, I think it is him that said, as long as you follow one and keep going with it, like he was kind of, I don't think he would say anything negative again about the Vedic, but he was like, you didn't stick with the Vedic the whole way through. And I guess maybe he's seen people get mixed up or following both it must be hard to follow both, right? I mean, if you're looking at picking the good stuff out of both of them,
Yeah, I don't know a lot about Western astrology, and I never really, because again, I was very skeptical about the whole thing anyway.
Mhm.
But I've had people who are Western astrologers come to me for readings, and after the reading, give up Western astrology and switch to Vedic. So that's been, again, anecdotally, a few people. And then I know quite a few Vedic astrologers who were former Western astrologers that switched. But there's sort of my own, conspiracy theory in some ways that, India came up with this system 15, 20,000 years ago. This was a conscious people, an enlightened group of beings that lived at the foothills of the Himalayas and came into the knowledge of the yoga system, the Vedic astrology system, the whole Vedic system. And it was something that was practiced by these very highly conscious beings from 15 to 20,000 years ago. And they transmitted all of this knowledge in oral tradition for thousands of years. And about 5,000 years ago, finally wrote it down, became known as the Vedas, the original scriptures of the Indian system. And then that sort of remained in place until India was conquered by outside forces. And we were first conquered by the Muslims, the Mughals, who, tried to impose their system of knowledge and desecrate or subjugate the Indian system. And then, of course, the British came in, right? The British came in 250 years, ruled India, and said, hey, your systems are backwater, superstitious, mumbo jumbo. We have this brilliant Christian system, follow this. And we have the Western ways of education, Western ways of being, Western ways of dressing. And so we were, as Indians, told that our systems were backwards. We're almost, how would the British conquer a nation of hundreds of millions of people without changing the narrative and changing the story and coming up with an alternative version of history? So in India, we looked down on our own systems. It became this Eurocentric view. And of course, then, you look at history and like the colonist history says, astrology originated in, Egypt and Mesopotamia and the Greeks and the Romans, and they taught it to the Indians. But it doesn't make sense. If you look at the math, it just doesn't line up. If you look at the original system, just from a logical point of view, the Indian system is way predates it, right? And so now here we are in the Western system, and here I'm an Indian guy talking about the Indian system, and Western astrology going to say, that's all mumbo jumbo. The Western system is the one. Well, it's again this colonist sort of viewpoint, and I think it's important to understand that India was subjugated for such a long time. In a way, Vedic astrology is still a subjugated system and not in the mainstream because of history and colonist revisionism, I would say.
I love it. I love that you go back that far. I mean, so are you thinking, is Atlantis a part of that, do you think? Like going back to, a civilization that might have been even, further west than India, maybe in the mid-Atlantic or maybe it was a global civilization that they call Atlantis. But I mean, it sounds like you're saying that there was a science and technology going way back. Would that fit with Atlantis?
I think Atlantis was more recent than the Vedic people. The Vedic people are considered the Indus River Valley civilization. And different Atlantis, the Vedic civilization actually there have been excavations and they found some of their settlements. And so there's a Harappa and Mohenjo-daro excavations, and they actually found relics and information that helped confirm that these were very advanced, sophisticated people. They had road systems and drainage systems and right angle streets and, airflow, knowledge of airflow and cooling. And, so yeah, I think there's a little bit more fidelity now emerging with archaeology. And the other thing has also been that the advancements in DNA testing, where they can test DNA and realize the root of different civilizations and people. And in India, we all know the original clan member that we came from. So there are they're called the Sapta Rishis, the seven original sages. And most Indian families that are, connected in and, go to temple, for instance, the priest will ask them and say, who's your original clan member? And everybody knows that name. They're like, I came from this sage. I came from that sage.
Wow.
So, with things like Atlantis, there isn't like a living connection necessarily to that ancient people and that ancient tradition. Whereas India is still alive today. Like we can trace it back. We know it. It's in our system. It's a living tradition that's been unbroken, uninterrupted for tens of thousands of years. And exists. Like it's been practiced today. There's
Is
probably
that, is that everybody or just the Brahmin class or the cat? Like, does that fit into the whole caste system or?
yeah. So it's definitely so. There was a Vedic system of knowledge that was a non-religious philosophical system
Okay.
that I believe started 20,000 years ago.
Okay.
Then from that derived Hinduism, which is probably 8,000 years old. So Hinduism is a derivation of this Vedic system, and they made it into a religion. So then
Okay.
religion, but they kept a lot of the teachings and systems. So Hinduism can feel like 70% correlated to the original Vedic system. And so Hindus sort of maintained that system and tradition in a religious way that the original Vedic people had. And then, of course, the Hindus came up with this idea of a caste system, which said, hey, if you're born in a certain family, then you are supposed to be this way. But the original caste system was actually based on your astrology chart. You'd look at somebody's chart and you'd say, hey, you seem to be more interested in knowledge and wisdom. And hey, this other person, you seem to be more interested in defending and fighting for rights.
Well,
and
I like that.
you seem to like to work with your hands more. And
Yeah,
so
what
chart.
you would naturally put purpose, like give people purpose and meaning, right?
Yeah. So then, somebody's born and they, they're good with knowledge. They're good with laws. They get put in charge of the laws. And they have this, in India, we use the word duffer. Duffer is like an idiot, right? So you have this duffer kid. And you're like, this kid is is not going to go anywhere in life. Let me change the laws and make sure that they have a successful future because I'm part of the lawmaking group. And so the laws and rules got changed to favor birthright over natural propensity. And so now people are being born into a certain caste, but that's not their character. And that's where the whole thing broke down. And it became used as a way to subjugate different groups of people. But that wasn't the original intent. The original intent was sort of like Plato, right? Plato in the Republic wrote about gold, silver, and bronze people, just different propensities. So the Vedic astrology chart tells you your propensity. So for instance, for me, birthright, I'm born in a Brahmin lineage. So by birth, I'm part of the priestly ritual knowledge caste. But if you look at my chart says I'm a warrior. I'm one who wants to defend and stand up for the right thing. And if you think about what we're doing today, I'm trying to stand up for the knowledge system of my people. So you can see that your chart actually reveals more of your character. And I've always been more of a fighter than a lawmaker, I guess.
Interesting. Wow, that's fascinating. Has there been a resurgence into the Vedic? I mean, it seems like Theosophy brought it sort of forward a little bit into our modern culture. People have, yoga became very popular. I mean, it does feel like there's a renaissance for this aspect of it.
I think the renaissance is that people are trying to figure themselves out. And maybe that isn't even renaissance. Maybe we've always been trying to figure ourselves out. We've been trying to understand why we're here, why we do the things we do, why we have the relationships we have, why we have the pain and challenges we have, why we have the diseases we have. And people are searching for ways to heal that. And so there's an interest in all things to do with understanding yourself better, whether it's through psychedelics or through, ancient cultures and civilizations and knowledge systems. But because yoga became this thing that people started doing and feeling better with, yoga sort of opened the door to the philosophy. So, and yoga was what? A bunch of gymnastics on a mat. That's what people are doing in the West.
Yeah.
Gymnastics on a mat. And then they're like, oh, there's a breathing piece.
Yeah.
Oh, there's a meditation piece. Oh, there's a philosophy piece. Oh, there's a way of living. And they started incorporating the broader teachings beyond the mat. And then they realized, oh, these broader teachings beyond the mat have these other parallel systems like Ayurveda. So the resurgence in Ayurvedic medicine has come through the yoga community. Yeah. And I believe the yoga community is leading this resurgence in Vedic astrology because yogis, especially these Instagram yogis, keep posting about the moon and moon ceremonies and this sign and that sign, but it's all Western stuff. So I've been asking the question, why are you as a yogi posting about a system that's disconnected from yoga? It's like you've got a bunch of Android devices and now you just brought an Apple device into the mix. The whole thing breaks. Like keep it consistent, and so that's where I think yogis in their quest to connect to the cosmos are initially gravitating to Western astrology, but then realizing, wait, there's a system that's much more integrated and connected to yoga.
That's fascinating. I mean, I've always said that about yoga and meditation, that the more people that the more this becomes like a thing, it'll get people deeper into the metaphysical.
Yeah, believe that. And so that was my purpose in writing the book, is I find that if you're interested in Vedic astrology and you start to, get fascinated with this original system, and you go to buy a book on Vedic astrology, by chapter 2, you'll be completely confused. They're books meant for very serious students. Yeah. So my goal is, how do I have the average layperson who's maybe a fan of Western astrology just learn about this other system? So the whole idea of, Astrology Decoded, the secret science of Indian sages, the whole point of this book was to say, hey, let me give an on-ramp. Let me give a very basic introduction to these 9 planets.
I was going to ask you about is that the 9 personality types then?
Yes, the 9 personality types are basically the 9 planets and their archetypal energies, and then how they show up in your life. So you become conscious without having to look at a chart, without having to think of what's happening tens of thousands of miles away in space. What's happening right in front of you is an explanation of that planet communicating, right? Somebody shows up in your life that's very talkative. It's Mercury energy. Somebody shows up very angry. Okay, it's Mars energy, right? Somebody who shows up and kind of slow moving and aged. Okay, that's a Saturn energy. A wisdom teacher shows up that shares with you some deep wisdom. Okay, that's Jupiter showing up, right? Some beautiful woman appears. Okay, that's Venus energy. So you kind of see in your day-to-day life how these planets are showing up, and they're signs. They're literally signs from the universe.
So the 9 is the 7 planets and the moon and the sun?
No, plus the 2 nodes.
Plus the 2 nodes, the Rahu serpent head, and Ketu, the serpent tail.
So then it doesn't include the moon and the sun. It's just the 7 planets and then those 2 things?
No, sun is the first. So think of the days of the week. Sunday is the first sun. Monday is moon day, moon. Then Mars, then Mercury, then Jupiter. Friday is connected Venus. Then Saturday is Saturn.
It doesn't connect. It doesn't include Neptune or Pluto because they're not visible. They're not visible with the eye.
And then you add Rahu and Ketu, which are the nodes. And the nodes are
not 11 though.
7
no, it doesn't include the 2 outside planets.
Yeah, 7 plus 2. 7 planets plus 2 nodes.
Yeah, but okay, I messed up. So I'm doing 7 planets plus the sun and the moon plus 2 nodes.
Then you'd say 5 planets plus the sun and the moon.
Okay. Yeah, right.
Yeah. Then 5, 6, 7, 8, 9.
Visible with the eye. They have to be visible. There.
So what are we cutting out then? Neptune
and Pluto.
And
Uranus.
And Uranus. That's right. So we're cutting out 3 there. That's why. Okay.
And the nodes are interesting because the nodes aren't real planets. They're shadows. They're shadows where eclipses take place. So the way you know about Rahu and Ketu, they were the serpent energy that was cut into 2. They were cut into 2 because they snuck in to drink a nectar of immortality. And the moon and the sun saw that they were a demon planet. And the Supreme Lord threw a discus and chopped the demon at the throat. Right. So that's the mythology of it. But because the sun and the moon were the tattletales, Rahu and Ketu are trying to swallow up the sun and the moon all the time. So when an eclipse happened, it's like the serpent is trying to swallow the sun or swallow the moon. But because it's severed, the sun and the moon come out the other side. So they're really just eclipse points in space. When you look up in the sky, you would never see Rahu and Ketu unless it's an eclipse, but they're eclipsing forces. So like for you, Darren, when you have Rahu and Ketu across your, career and home axis, that means that there was like an eclipse or a shadow around career. You had to go through some spiritual turmoil to find your true career.
Sometimes I feel like my career is spiritual turmoil.
You're living the Rahu and Ketu legend then.
A little taste of that today.
and whenever something interrupts, like when Graham's sound cut out, that's usually a Rahu Ketu energy. So you know that if you're having tech issues, it can be a Mercury issue. So Mercury in low degrees can lead to some tech issues. Mercury retrograde can lead to tech issues. But sudden interruptions, sudden shadowing, eclipsing of something, that's usually Rahu and Ketu.
It's weird. I was going to warn you guys that was going to happen. I was going to say, if my system cuts out, I just have to reboot and I'll be back.
Right.
And then it did.
Yeah. So that's the thing for you. And, Graham, for you, Mercury is also a planet connected to mantras. So you would do very well with mantra practice. I don't know if you've tried mantras.
Yeah, I've tried. Yeah, a little bit.
That's very good for you.
I'll do more though. I mean, So Mercury. So if I did that around my Mercury and the return of Mercury.
I mean, look, every Wednesday is Mercury's day. So
Right.
every Wednesday you have this beautiful window into Mercury. But yes, every few months or whatever, when Mercury returns, that's also a potent time. I like to just keep it simple because not everyone's going to pull up a chart all the time and look at it every day. So rather just remember the days of the week. If you have a planet that you have trouble with, do the remedy for that planet on that day of the week. And in my book, I give a lot of very practical, simple remedies for those planets. So you can go to my website is vishchatterji.com. If you go there, you can hit generate birth chart, enter in your birth details. It'll generate your birth chart. It'll tell you your rising sign, accurately calculated in the sky. It'll tell you the planet behind that. And then once you know that planet, you can go into the book, find that planet, read about it, learn about it. And then you go to the back of the book, it'll tell you, here's how you make that planet stronger. And the idea is if you make that planet stronger, because it's the planet behind the first house of your chart, it helps the whole chart. So it's kind of like, instead of getting all complicated, say, okay, here's the one planet. Like, for Darren, for instance, Darren, you are an Aries rising. So a major planet that rules your whole chart is Mars. So Mars is a planet that likes exercise. So just by doing exercise on a regular basis or exercising on Mars Day, which is Tuesday, exercise on Tuesdays, and you're going to notice that energetic shift. Obviously, there's benefits from exercise, but it's also going to calm that Mars energy down overall, reduce inflammation that you might be susceptible to. If you get headaches, it'll reduce headaches, right? Like those kind of things. So that's how you use this knowledge.
Vish, this has been great. Is there anything about the book you think you feel like we didn't get to?
No, we covered everything. I think it'd be good for all of you to consider reading the book. It's a very simple book. It's not very long, and you'll just learn these 9 planetary energies, how they apply to you, and it gives you very practical tips of how to use them and how to observe how they're showing up in your life. The aim of the book is to just help you become more conscious of the universe and this context that you all live in.
Where's the best place for people to get that book? We're going to put it in the show notes, of course, but some people don't make it to the show notes. So if you could give us the URL as the best place to get it, your website, social media, anything you think is important that people could find you and ask more questions or buy your stuff.
Yeah, the book is available wherever books are sold. If you go to my website, Vish Chatterji, ChatterJI.com, there's a link to generate your chart. There's a link to buy the book. The link I have right now is just going straight to Amazon. Amazon all over the world has it. That's the easiest place to get it. If you have a problem with Amazon, then go to your independent bookstore. They'll have it. As an author, what's interesting is if you buy it from Amazon, Amazon starts to promote it more, and then it starts to do well on Amazon. And then the independent bookstores say, oh, it's doing well on Amazon, we'll carry it as well. So in order to feed the independent bookstores at this time, Amazon is helpful. But whatever is your preference, you can buy it wherever books are sold.
Great. Yeah, this has been great, Vish. Thank you for coming on the show, and come back anytime. Anytime you want to chat, shoot us an email. If you have a new book out, let us know.
My pleasure. Thank you, Darren. Thank you, Graham.
It's been great. Thanks.
Thank you so much. And thank you, everyone, for watching and listening.
Awesome. All right, take care.
And that was a chat with Vish Chatterji.
That was great, man. I loved it. Hair Metal Jesus Meat said, I like this guy. He's spitting some facts here in the chat. And man, that was great. I like it. I'm gonna get that book. Actually, I have it here because it really just fits with what I've been looking for recently with the returns. For some reason I've been focusing on that.
I think the publicist actually offered to send us a copy. So
I feel like the book looks familiar. Like, did we get one? I wonder when
I don't think we did because it's not an Inner Traditions one. It was through another place. But he asked if I wanted a book, so I gave him someone.
It looks like October 29th it became available, so not too long ago. So hopefully,
I'll have to circle back because when we were talking, we booked this. I want to say before the book came. Like we booked this before. This was booked because it was coming out then. So. Yeah, big thanks to Vish for coming on the show. Big thanks to you guys for listening. Even bigger thanks if you guys are one of our nobles here in Grimerica supporting the show over at grimerica.ca/support. either with a one-time donation or maybe you even got a monthly. That's even cooler. So you'd brag about that to your friends. Sign up today, grimerica.ca/support. Of course, if you want to talk about that stuff that gets us in trouble, you can head over to grimericaoutlawed.ca for that more controversial content, and adultbrain.ca for the 120 some audiobooks and counting. Contact at the cabin for the trips. There's a great one coming up in May. There's hunting stuff next fall, and you want to sign up for that newsletter because the Azores one is coming out soon. So you're going to want to be, that's going to be super limited capacity, and you're going to want to get on it. So contact at thecabin.com for that. Other than that, we love you guys. Thanks for listening, and we will see you next week.
Oh, the rain came down, my wallet got soaked, the money ran out. Oh, the mud was gold, the ground was cold, my dignity was never bought nor sold. Oh, choose a career, get your mind clear, keep up with the Joneses. Oh, you go in, you atone for your greed. You atone for your greed with the electric messiah. But that's just your publicity stunt. I can see your duplicity in front of your lies. Oh, the rain came down, my wallet got soaked, the money ran out. Oh, the ground was cold, the mud was gold, my dignity was never bought nor sold. Oh, choose a career, get your mind clear, keep up with the Joneses. Oh, you go in, you atone for your greed. You atone for your greed with the electric messiah. Oh, but that's just your publicity stunt. I can see your duplicity in front of your lies. Oh, the rain came down, my wallet got soaked,